So for the final part of this presentation, I'd like to think a little bit about the relationship between carbon, cost and consumption. So in this, we're trying to relate carbon back to other business mechanisms and other aspects of our business. Now, there's an example that I quite often use with students, which is looking at a fictitious company, and this company makes parts for the motor industry, and one of its larger customers has asked it to calculate its carbon footprint, calculate the carbon footprint of each item of product that's sold to the car manufacturer, and then to look at different ways in which, as a company, they can reduce their carbon footprint and to prioritise these. Now, there are various examples given, but for the purposes of this video, I'd like to draw your attention to two of them. Now, the first example, there are two here. First example is looking at doing some work with reducing energy and actually having a target of reducing energy use by 10%. So, you know, by anyone's standards, a kind of, you know, a very achievable target, 10% reduction in energy use. Now, if the company do that through good housekeeping, application of some basic measures of energy efficiency, and with very little actually investment at all, they could achieve 125,000 kilowatt hours of energy reduction. So that's a reduction in consumption by 125,000 kilowatt hours, which equates to just under 60,000 kilograms of carbon in a year. So a very good saving of carbon, and also a saving of, in this case, it's a British company, in this case £12,500 worth of savings, which is very significant. So another possible measure for them to look at is reducing their water usage. And in this case they're looking at a 25% reduction as a target, but equally achievable given the current circumstances and with very little investment. Now, if they were to do that, they calculated they would save 2,500 cubic metres of water and only 745 kilograms of carbon and £3,750. So, given these figures, and given that the carbon footprint was the pressing factor that the customer of this company wanted them to look at and wanted them to be aware of, it would demonstrate that the energy practices, the new practices with or good housekeeping on energy, would be the target, the priority over that for water. But there are other things that you need to take into account here. And one is that the water calculation has only been made on incoming water. It's not being made on the outgoing water or effluent that comes out of the organisation after the manufacturing processes, which means that if you add in the carbon saved by not having to clean that effluent, you'd actually increase this carbon by a good deal more. But even without that, the other aspect of this, when we look at, again, coming back to the beginning of this video, when we look at carbon within the context of the environmental footprint of an organisation, then should we really be ignoring taking housekeeping measures on water when we know that as a global resource, water is under severe pressure, and in parts of the globe, including the UK, which is commonly seen as being a very wet place, we're under severe water stress at certain parts of the year. So this is just a note of caution to say carbon should be working with other aspects of our business, like consumption, like cost, but perhaps we should think twice about making carbon king.